Back in the 90s, I was on a very famous TV show. Yeah. Bojack. If you didn't pick up from the song, first of all, welcome
Bojack the horse.
First of all, welcome to the podcast. I'm Cooper.
I'm Christian.
And this is the Real Deal
podcast.
That was really smooth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we were just thinking of beginning a little, like, it's still just normal podcast, but we're wanting to start, like, debate topics and something on the Bojack Horseman show. Which
we're debating topics today?
No, we're just, like, talking about it. I don't,
okay.
I'm a little bit lost.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, it's not.
I don't like it. It's too mature.
It's too mature.
No, but if you don't know what that is, BoJack Horseman is a long-running animated TV show.
Emmy-nominated. Netflix original.
It is. Honestly, I've saw so much of it. I didn't watch it. Like, I've seen all of it A to B, but it's been a while for me. I didn't watch it until the pandemic of 2020, when the show was ending. That's why I got on it. And it's been around since 2014. Big voices, like, there's a big name cast on it, too. You might not know just because it's, like, distracting a bit that they're not just people. It's humans, horses, all types of animals.
Yeah, anthropomorphic animals.
And I think that's what kind of did it cool. Like, I mean, you see shows now, like, there's other shows that I forgot the name of it, but it's like Bird and Toucan or something. But
Toucan and Birdie.
Toucan and Birdie, those shows
very similar.
Very similar, like, to the sense of that and other animated shows, where I feel like BoJack, at least in my mind, did the animated stuff first.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best, if not the best, adult animated shows. And it's a Netflix original, which is really impressive.
Netflix original animation stuff is pretty solid.
I'm upset that it was nominated for an Emmy and then it didn't win. But
it won a Critics' Choice Award.
What?
It won a Critics' Choice Award.
Ooh. But the Emmy went to, I think, Big Mouth, which is the same category. But Big Mouth got an Emmy. And not BoJack Horseman, which is kind of...
I think Big Mouth is smart, but I also am not the biggest fan of Big Mouth. But maybe it's just because I need to give it some time.
I don't mind Big Mouth. Like, it's fine. I have to skip through some of the scenes, but I think the humor's pretty funny.
I think it's a little funny. For me, it's just not my type of thing.
Like, I think BoJack Horseman is just so much more, so better written, everything.
It's better written. It's funny. It, if you feel for the characters, even though they're flawed, like, that's the point, is that Big Mouth does it too, but like without puberty and stuff. But it doesn't take it as like a joke. It takes it as, this is a serious character. They go through issues, and some of the issues, real people have these issues.
Yeah, these characters don't feel like funny horse guy who is sad. It feels like a real human being who's like emotionally scarred and has to work through it through years and years of work.
So if you haven't seen it and you're willing to watch, and again, I have to probably...
It's 6 seasons.
6 seasons. It's all on Netflix.
25 minutes to like 30 minutes per episode.
Yeah, it's not.
Just go watch it.
It's not
Start
long.
watching it.
But yeah, we're gonna be covering this for the next probably like 6 weeks because 6 seasons.
Well, I don't know. We'll probably throw in some.
We'll throw in some other stuff. Like we might do some, like, if it's a movie we want to talk about, or like another show. I know we were talking about Sweet Tooth. And I know season 2 drops in a couple weeks.
And we can do Sweet Tooth all at once. That could be one episode
because it's not super like.
Yeah, this is just there's so much content to go.
Because with other shows. I mean, depending on what the show is, something about BoJack is there's so much deeper meanings than what the show is.
And discussion and like how we feel about it.
Yeah, I think we said that for the actual finale in season 6, we're having its own episode.
Yeah, the finale is going to have its own episode, but season 6 is going to have its own episode as well. And honestly, I don't know what the TV just did. Oh, okay. If you are watching this and you want to watch BoJack, watch the first season and then come back to this episode and then see if the thoughts are the same. Do it fresh. I think you'll like it a lot more. If you're not going through it, just come along for the ride and we'll tell you what it's about. Yeah,
and if you do want to know, I guess, like, so we jump into it. If you really don't know what we're talking about, what's BoJack Horseman, what's Netflix? Netflix is a subscriber series. No,
Netflix is something that beat out Blockbuster by mailing movies.
Don't say that. I was a Blockbuster member, man.
I bet you were. Little freak.
My family used to go and get VHS all the time.
We did the same thing. We never went to a Blockbuster. We went to a Family Video, which is still up and running. Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. I am actually really trying to like do more like looking at VHS. I own so many VHSs and I can't play a single one anymore.
They gotta get you a VHS player.
That'd be a great birthday present. But yeah,
Nobody steal it.
What is BoJack Horseman? So basically, it's about this horse actor from the '90s
who is kind of a washed-up actor.
Oh yeah,
he
hasn't been in like anything else. It's really been like a breakout role, and he lives though his life, like with substance abuses and all that, and being also neglectful and narcissistic. But I think the big thing for me, what it is that he still tries to live in the show because we'll talk about it in episodes, but he keeps rewatching episodes or playing out scenes and saying quotes from the show.
And he slowly stops doing that as he becomes his own person.
And I think it's big, mainly because of the characters that he's with, and all of them are so diverse.
Yeah, and when he relapses and he has these moments of like breakdown where he's like actually the worst he can be, he always watches Horson around. Yep. It's a comfort for him because it's a time when he was really, really happy. It's very interesting because he's this deep, brooding kind of character, and he is hard to like for the first couple seasons. He's really hard to get along with.
Because what happens, you're like, this is just like, what are you doing?
But I think Bojack is awesome. I think he's very cool. But besides that, we're going to be introduced to our other supporting actors in this, and I think we should go by episode and just say like who really gets the spotlight in these episodes. So just the synopsis for episode 1, I'll throw it up on here. The episode is called Bojack Horseman. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Bojack Horseman, the Bojack. I have some notes here. So the episode is called Bojack Horseman, the Bojack Horseman.
Yeah, the Bojack Horseman story, chapter 1. That is the first episode, episode 1 of season 1.
And so
the synopsis for the episode.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up. Synopsis for the episode. To help with the, what does it say? Memoir. Okay. So yeah, to help with the memoir, he hopes will put him back in the spotlight. Bojack hires a ghostwriter.
Yes.
This is where we meet Todd. This is where we meet Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter.
And Princess Carolyn.
Princess Carolyn, by the way, is one of my favorite characters. I think she goes through a crazy cool change through the entire story. She still stays very similar to what she was originally.
That's solid. I love all these characters.
Yeah, there's not a character in BoJack that doesn't have something going on. Even like, background characters.
Yeah, because like there's these like 2 bird guys in season 1. They're like these trying to blackmail him and stuff. Yeah. They're just super fun characters that like have a motive, but they're not being overused or underused or anything. So
we find out that like Todd is his roommate. They've known each other for 5 years, I think.
5 to 6 years, but it was not like really his roommate. It's just some
guy that showed up at a Halloween party and then stayed left. There. Yeah, he never left.
And but the reason Bojack takes him in is because Bojack feels
he's lonely.
He's lonely. He needs somebody.
He's lonely, and he also kind of self-sabotages Todd by keeping him with him in a toxic kind of way for a long time.
Because he keeps like insulting him a lot and
like
belittling him.
Yeah, and belittling him. And we'll see and kind of dig deeper into that character relation as more of those episodes come up.
Yeah.
The first season doesn't have a lot of him being super destructive towards Todd, more just calling him names and telling him he's lazy. But this is a very good introduction episode to understand who Bojack is, where his priorities are, and the people who are in his life, who are all it's not like the story started here. Yeah. We are now glimpsing into a story that's been ongoing for 5 years. But it's a really solid start episode.
If we wanted to talk about that,
go ahead.
Let's talk about the intro.
Oh, the intro's fantastic.
It's nuts. Like it's super cool. Like still shot. Like him phasing through. Like his character doesn't move.
My friend, our friend Brady, he watched it for the first time. He's a graphic designer and he loves the intro because it's so intricate and cool. He'll actually be on for season 4 and hopefully the finale episode if we can get him on.
Yep.
But coming through that, we've sat here and this intro evolves and kind of grows with the episodes. It's not as like noticeable as like I think like You and some other shows like that, they have some of those intros that are like very similar, or they're like just the whole season has the same thing. Bojack will change and tweak little things in some of the intros. It'll be symbolist. It'll have a bunch of symbolism in it. You'll understand what's going on in that season because of it. It's a 10 out of 10 intro. Like, I watch it every time.
It's solid. It's something you just can't, like, this and the Peacemaker intro are the ones I don't.
I love the Peacemaker intro.
Those are the two I don't skip. Maybe Game of Thrones, but sometimes it gets a little long there. So.
Peacemaker intro, I just like seeing them dance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first it's a catalyst episode to understand who Bojack is, where his priorities are, and what he's trying to do.
Even who, like, the side characters are.
Yeah.
Because the show is called Bojack Horseman, but even in season 1, there are episodes that feel more centered around the other characters.
Bojack is the star of the show, per se, but there are full episodes where he's just not in them.
Yeah.
Like, and he's at the very end, and that sets up for the next episode.
Yeah, because, like, there's an episode, I don't want to get ahead of it, but, like, introducing the characters a little bit, like, you know, we talk about Todd a bit, but he also he's kind of has an off and on relationship with Princess Carolyn this season, who's also his agent, where it's really just because...
Not Todd. Bojack has a relationship.
Bojack has a relationship with...
And they've been on and off for about 4 years, I think is what he said, 5 years.
And
since she became his agent, they've been on and
and
off. Since before he was her agent.
Yeah, because he had an agent before, but she was very, like, good about, like, you know, keeping the difference and stuff, because, like, literally the moment he, like, breaks up with her or something, or she breaks up with him, she's back to being his agent. And
yeah, literally, she's
funny.
like, what is it? It's Princess Carolyn. It's like, we always land on our feet. Cats always land on their feet.
And then he rolls her off the car.
And she does a flip and then sits down in his chair and then calls him and says, Bojack, it's me, your agent.
Oh my gosh, we just broke up.
broke up. And it's like, I'm your agent, though. I pride myself on...
And it's like, okay, that's my agent. Tell me about getting fat. No, you're in the best shape of your life.
As my girlfriend, you're a horrible piece of shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
You look like a piece of shit, ate a piece of shit, and then shut out another piece of shit.
So wait, which one am I? The third one.
The third one.
That's the worst one.
Yeah, dude. I love... It's a very fun season 1 episode. I think it's a great pilot episode, too.
It just... Well, yeah, because even in, like, the first scene, which I think is they show, like, a little bit of, like, the show he was on.
Horsing Around, by the way.
Horsing Around is the show.
And that is something you're gonna hear over and over and over again while we're talking about this, is horsing around.
Because that's the main centerpiece of Bojack's problems is the show. And I guess deeper when we go into the different episodes and stuff, he is like just this, he's so attached to the show because it's what made him, besides like, you know, like family stuff, it's what made him this character. His fame, his success, and he still tries to cling on to the one thing he was recognizable as. And also there's so many problems with it, like with his friend Herb and all that, and it's just crazy. But for the pilot episode was just solid.
So we've been introduced to pretty much the main cast at this point. We've got Mr. Peanut Butter, we've got Diane, we've got Diane is a writer who wrote a book about Secretariat. Yep. Which he's very important in this first season. That's his hero
of his childhood, yeah.
And Secretariat, we'll find out what happens to him later, because it happens. They go over it in the last episode of this season.
Yeah,
it is a big point for him. He's been wanting to do the Secretariat movie, but he's actually too old to do it now.
Yep.
So he's felt like kind of washed up because of it, and it's like the only thing he wants out of his acting career. Mm-hmm. But she wrote a book about him. That's where he found her. He found her through the Penguin Publishing Agency.
That's fun too.
Yeah,
he's literally just goofing around that he is just like, we need a new book.
We're so broke. We're so broke. We need another book. I love him. He's so much fun.
That voice actor is so good. He actually, good. I guess I don't know if it's an Easter egg or not. He actually played the Penguin in a comedy, or it's called College Humor, the YouTube channel, College Humor short of Batman.
I didn't know that.
He played the Penguin. Yeah,
that's really fun.
Yeah.
So then we'll move on to episode 2 of this season. I love this title. Bojack hates the troops. This is where Bojack finds himself the subject of a national media attention after he calls the troops jerks.
Yeah, so quotes. Because what happens here is he's having like a rough like start to stuff, and he tries to blow off like, even like this is when they first like, because the first episode was set up characters. The second episode is like them finally getting to writing the book, and he just tries to push it off a bit, and he goes to buy muffins, and he takes it from a SEAL who was a veteran. Who was a
Navy SEAL.
A Navy SEAL, which is funny. And he's like, I call dibs. And it's like, you call dibs?
Yeah.
On muffins? And it's like, I did. And then...
No one puts muffins in the produce aisle. Yes, they called dibs. I had to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
And the whole episode is just...
that.
Everything. And everyone gets really mad at him.
It's a big controversy.
And he says he's sorry, and then immediately it all goes away.
Yeah, well, but he says sorry on Mr. Peanut Butter's show, which
Yeah.
if about Mr. Peanut Butter is he's basically like not the copy of BoJack, but he got all of his fame basically ripping off
The same thing. The show that they did, which was Mr. Peanut Butter's House, which
Yep.
I like the song for it too.
Yeah.
Mr. Peanut Butter. But whenever it comes down to it, it was Mr. Peanut Butter with 2 twin orphans,
Zoe and Zelda.
Zoe and Zelda.
Yeah.
And they did the whole like shtick dad thing, which
Yeah.
with Horsing Around, it was 3 orphans
Yeah.
and 1 horse.
Yeah, and it was just a little different. But, you know, that's the thing. But Mr. Peanut Butter is this more lighthearted guy, a little more simple, and he just...
Optimistic.
Yeah, very optimistic.
He's the antithesis to BoJack.
Correct, yeah.
It's not that Mr. Peanut Butter is always happy, but he can be serious, and he is serious later on.
Yeah.
But he chooses to be happy. That's the thing. He embraces the things that make him happy.
Because he'll do some scenes where he's like, I know what you did. You're my best. It's like switching it up. Yeah.
And like even whenever he knows like awful things happen,
Yep.
he would rather be a good friend than have his feelings be a part of the discussion. Mr. Peanut Butter, in his own way, is because every character in the show has some sort of flaw to them, and Mr. Peanut Butter's is his personality, and he matures later down the road. Actually,
Yeah. And just like back to the episode, or not like on the episode topic where he like changes the muffins from the seal. The big thing he like really doesn't like say apologize to the guy for until the end is because like if you look at the thing of it, he looks at his dad, and his dad is like this big influence on his life just because he's his father, but he taught him to be tough and to never really say you're sorry and to never backtrack. And
he was told his dad was a writer, so his dad would work these long hours, and he never finished. Or no, he did finish his book, but BoJack never reads it.
Yeah.
Apparently he wrote his book this entire time or whatever, and he would constantly blame BoJack for his shortcomings or his mother. And his mother did the same thing to BoJack and his father, and it's just this whole thing where he came from this awful, horrible, like way traditional family, and it's just very hard for him to admit when he's wrong, and he finally just gives up and is like, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Yeah, and he gave him those bags of old hamburger buns.
Yeah, of old hamburger buns.
He's like...
and it was accepted, and it was all swept under the rug. It didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I think that episode is... I want to say like a weaker one, because I feel like in this season there's no weak episodes. I just feel like that's the other side of
I think that's probably the second weakest, if not the weakest one.
of the season.
Yeah.
I just feel like the thing about that is that if that's the weakest or one of the weakest, that's pretty solid.
That's
because
super solid.
it's just a nice little filler that still gives you a little insight on BoJack, and gives the other characters something fun to do. Awesome.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't want a heavy episode every single time, because then you're going to be like, wow.
Yeah, and this episode had those heavy moments especially with his dad realizing, oh my God, like this is the person who was his father. But it's not even scratching the surface of what his parents made him go through.
Yeah.
Like this is very mild compared to what happens to the rest of it. But yeah, so basically he
hates the troops.
He hates the troops. He calls the troops a jerk or whatever because he's too prideful.
He says sorry, he's like fighting with him. Like,
yeah.
Although I would say that you saying troops is or being a hero is degradable to actual heroes in the army.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where he just had to swallow the bullet and say, I was wrong.
Yep.
And he gave him old hamburger buns. It was really funny.
That was funny.
The next episode's called Prickly Muffin, and I hate this episode title. BoJack reconnects with an old friend. Her name is Sarah Lynn.
Yep.
From his past, and who moves into his house and creates pandemonium.
Can we first say, the actress who plays Sarah Lynn is so awesome.
I love her.
She is
Mabel
Christian Scale. Sorry if I got it wrong. She does play Mabel in Gravity Falls and a whole bunch of other shows.
She's a comedian too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's very
funny. She's so
Dude,
great.
if I would love to meet her. She does so many voices.
She does so many voices or all these different characters. They're just like really funny to get to know.
Because like in this show, obviously she says some like really gross things.
Yes.
But like I like hearing her comedy where it's just her being like, yeah, and I was penis, and I'm like, oh my god. Because I always think like Mabel when I hear her voice.
Yes,
when I shouldn't
dude. That's what. I'm thinking of like even when I hear a voice and she talks about stuff. Sometimes I'll zone out and I'll think of Gravity Falls. I'm like, this is just Mabel, dog.
But Prickly Muffin is an episode where they do a callback to Prickly Muffin because in Horsing Around, Bojack's character called Sarah Lynn's character, who was the youngest of all the kids, Prickly Muffin.
And
he said, "What's wrong, Prickly Muffin?" Like that's like the little nickname.
And
gave
so
her.
later on, he meets up with her, which is so funny that she's dating Andrew Garfield at the beginning.
Yes,
and he's just sitting there like fixing his head and his hair. He's like,
"She is insane."
Because he breaks up with her and she starts to like.
She stabs herself with a bayonet.
And and she starts to like leave, but she like doesn't take responsibility for it, which I think we see in the episode is a result of BoJack. I mean, it's also the
enabling her.
It is also the industry because they also talk about how she's like when she was 18, it was like, do you think people like you because you're pretty and you're the new face of like the women on
the new like sex icon.
Yeah. And then she turns 30 and they go, dang, she's still around. It feels very like Lindsay Lohan.
In 10 years, you're telling me she's gone from a superstar to nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
cool. That's just realistic. I think that's crazy to think that happens.
She is one of probably the most tragic characters. She was a child actor.
Yeah.
And she gets super addicted to drugs. It's the same thing as every other child actor.
Every other child actor who has a bad.
Yeah. It's the same. The basic same story. There was abuse in the household, and she was forced to do show business. Show business destroyed her. She's an allegory for people who have
done it. Like something like. I mean, I don't.
What was the kid from Home Alone's name?
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin, Lindsay Lohan. Like I don't know if the Olsen twins ever did drugs. I don't want to say that. Or not.
Sam and Kat. I don't know. Or Sam and Carly.
They did not do those drugs.
What do you mean? Yeah, they did. Look at Carly. She looks like Michael Jackson.
She didn't do drugs.
I'm sorry. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I want to
Jeanette McCurdy. He's sorry.
Jeanette McCurdy, please. Anyways.
Put me on iCarly, the spinoff.
He starts...
Did you know that's the thing?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
They imply that Fred and her... Like, they have, like, multiple jokes where it's like, oh, my God, we're in the same bed together, naked, more or less.
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
But Prickly Muffin's also the name of one of her songs.
Yeah.
And it's talking about her prickly muffin. I don't know how to describe it. She's talking.
Let's just say it's Prickly Muffin, yeah.
Yeah, her private prickly muffin.
I mean that's how you can tell that she's fallen from grace. That she's like from her high point, and that is what the industry does to people because they mess up these kids and they give them too much to do and how much work, and then they throw them out like garbage.
Yeah,
and
she kept going. She did what she needed to stay relative.
Yeah, she does, and then BoJack tries to whether it was
weird
either
dad complex.
Yeah, whether it was like him feeling some part of him feeling bad for her, but also his complex because. I wrote in my notes that he went and when he hangs out with her, he tries to be responsible. But instead of being responsible,
he lets her do whatever she wants.
He lets her do whatever she wants under his supervision. And then he finally, like, when it's all done and done, he, like, pretends the show's ending.
Yeah.
And does, like, credits. And then she's just kind of like, okay. And then he finally, when his friends, like, both Diane and Todd hates her, by the way.
Yeah, Todd does not like that. It's not that he hates her. It's that he hates that both of them are really bad for each other.
They're also very immature because she's like messing up the house and stuff. And she gets to the guest room that he never got.
Yeah, that Todd didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and so we just sit through this. And after him and Diane finally talk to him about it, he finally is like, okay, I understand. You do need to go get help. And she goes, BoJack, it's honestly just too late for me. And he's like, what?
Yeah, she has given up on
everything.
She just wants to live and do her own thing. Now, oh, that's right. It's not this episode that happens.
It is this episode.
Him and Sarah Lynn?
Yep. They actually...
Oh, they do? They do.
They argue and they, sleep together and stuff.
They sleep together, which is weird because
she does say to him, she says, you're not my father. You're just some older guy who played a person on a TV show.
And now we're both consenting adults sitting in the same house. Like
that's the thing about BoJack Horseman that is like, it's because I don't know how to describe it. It looks like it's a cool animation show, but it tackles heavy themes. It shows mature stuff, but it still feels all like necessary. I don't know why. It feels like a good balance where you're not like super grotesque out of everything.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, I mean, they had an awful argument, and she has awful, terrible father issues.
Yeah.
And he has a weird complex of power.
yeah.
Like it's the worst possible thing for them to be in a room together.
But I feel like something.
And they were both blasted out of their mind.
Yeah. Oh, because they were, and it was just something like that. But I feel like even though some shows, like I said, Big Mouth isn't necessarily my demographic or where I would like probably don't want to watch something about like the hormonal changes of a teenager being over-explanatory.
I gotta say that intro song though is fire.
To BoJack or to Big Mouth?
Big Mouth.
Oh, it is.
I'm going through changes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In my life.
I just think that making shows like that about characters is important because there are people who do go through these lives. Like maybe I don't relate to every single theme in BoJack, and that's
once
not the point.
again. I would never let my kid watch
Until they're
Big
like
Mouth
15.
until they're old enough. Yeah,
I would have to give them like
they would have to be going through puberty.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I'd be cool with it.
Then I give them 1 year, and then I go.
Give them 1 year for going through puberty.
I give them 1 year to experience it real life, and because I don't want them to like get too immersed into a TV show, and then they're like, "This is what it's like," and I'm like, "No, it's not what it's like."
No, but it is. I mean, it is what it's like,
but,
but it's dramatified.
Yeah, there's no actual hormone monster.
Yeah. I mean, I had one. Andrew, you gotta jerk off, Andrew. That's what.
That is what he does. Yeah, but
Murray.
Who's Murray? What? Oh,
Marty. That's
the other hormone monster?
Andrew's dad.
Oh, yeah. Episode 4. I don't know. I was trying to like do a little silent. Andrew, talk about episode 4.
Andrew, talk about episode 4.
Zoe and Zelda's.
So Zoe and Zelda. Bojack decides to mentor Todd, Diana's ex-boyfriend, writes an article about Mr. Peanut Butter. So, by the way, Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter are together.
They're dating.
They're dating at this point. They're not,
because in the first
anymore.
episode, he meets up with him. He's like, "Do you know Mr. Peanut Butter?" And she goes, "Yeah, he's my boyfriend." And he shows up. And he's like, "Hello," and Bojack's like, "What?"
Yeah. So they're dating in this, and her ex-boyfriend is writing a BuzzFeed article about Mr. Peanut Butter, and it turns out he was not actually.
He was just trying to like
get close and weird.
And yeah, because at first he was like, what he was saying, I was like, okay, I understand what he was talking about. Talking to them and stuff. And then it's like, but you're not meant for
this. Is super important right here.
And we also see like the thing also about these episodes are they do like little snippets in the beginning that show like important themes, like him meeting Herb Kazaz, who is, we'll find out later, the creator of Horse and Around,
probably one of the most important people
to Bojack's story.
Yeah, to Bojack's story. That's a good way to put it, because not in Bojack's life per se.
Because for a while he's out of his life.
Yeah,
and he's only there for his beginning of his stardom, because before it's his parents' influence in his life.
Yeah.
And then I think it's Herb, and then I feel like it's everything after the show and everything he takes on. Also,
they have the dumb saying like, "Are you a Zoe or a Zelda?"
And
like Zelda's like outgoing.
So Zelda is an extrovert, outgoing. Zoe is like a cold introvert.
But then isn't the twist that Zoe's a Zelda and Zelda's a Zoe?
I don't think they say it in this episode.
I think they said that in this episode. This is the only episode where they talk about being a Zoe and a Zelda.
No, they talk about it a little later. Because there's.
Oh, I mean, they may have, but that's the secret about them is that they do that.
Wait, are you a Zoe? I guess like not like secretly, but are you like a Zelda or Zoe?
Which one's the outgoing one?
Like at the base front, because obviously they're different.
Yeah.
Zelda is the extrovert, like outgoing person.
I would say you're probably a Zelda and I'm a Zoe then, which is probably good because that makes good TV.
I made a pumpkin with his. Whatever it was.
I made him puking because of the awful pumpkin trades in Saudi Arabia or something. I don't remember.
That Halloween.
Don't quote me on that.
Is a thing about candy intake or whatever.
Also, Todd writes a rock opera or starts writing a rock opera.
Yeah, he was.
And this is the episode where I said this is
Bojack
the first one.
A bad person.
Bojack is awful.
Well, it's already awful when he sleeps with his ex-girl co-star. But
yes,
that was Still, that was also her decision too. But this one is all like this is bad.
This one's rough because he
sets up an actress to do like to pretend to get, because what Todd says.
Well, before that,
yeah,
Diane challenges Bojack
And says,
on you can't even be nice to Todd for a day.
because she's also like, you know why you keep him is because he's you can't like be without him. And then it's like, yes, I can. And it's like, okay. And then he's like, fine, encourage rock opera. And he does, but he doesn't really take it seriously.
For the first listening, and then Todd comes in
And
asks, he says something that wouldn't make sense in the rock opera.
yeah.
And Bojack apparently was super invested in it because he listened to everything and remembered it and said that wouldn't make sense for this because then this would have to happen. And then they both realized, but what if this happened instead?
And then he finally starts to hang out with Todd like normally.
Now they're on an actual genuine team, and Bojack really does want to help Todd with this.
He does, and he gets him that. He gets his this big break with this like fancy like music producer whatever guy to perform in front of like these like other people, and they'll produce a show. And so he gets ready. He's almost done. He has to write one more song.
And this is where he finds out if Todd gets this, he'll probably end up moving out.
Yeah, and then he'd be alone again. And then even though he really likes Todd now, like genuinely, he still is like, I can't be alone. So Todd's big problem before was he was lazy, and it was honestly because of a video game. So what Bojack does is he plants little seeds. He doesn't just say
the newest version of the video game, which is just like Tetris.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has character actress Margot Martindale. And I want you guys to know, she is one of the coolest characters in the entire show.
She's really funny.
And she looks very similar to her real life counterpart. They have her like perfect.
She is, yeah. And she's just, because she does more shenanigans with Bojack. But she's just like, oh, you look at this. And he goes, what is that? And he's like, and he buys the game, and he gets lazy again. And then he screws up his chance for the rock opera
because he was tired because he played literally all night,
and he didn't figure out a new song, and so they abandoned his idea, and Bojack is like, it's okay, man, you can stay with me whenever you want,
and he gives him the closet to put his stuff in.
He gives him the closet to put his piano in, and then as Todd goes to sleep or whatever, he goes and returns the disc and sells it back, and like everything that led up to this was all a ploy.
And it's just one of those moments where it's like, because we as the audience don't know
yeah, it's not like
that it was this
irony or anything. It's just
and
that.
At the end of the episode, we see him walk back into Beast Buy, and he has this awesome, cool moment where we're like, yes, Bojack is a good guy when he wants to be. And we find out that he actually did set him up. Mm-hmm. And it's so sickening at the end of the episode.
Because he sets him up.
Because you want them to be friends.
Yeah, you just thought that, and that's some recurring things with Bojack in the show until he finally does learn, is that he does good things, but then there's like always something behind it, or like he's always
there's an ulterior motive
to it, and so that was I think that one was the first time for me too where I was like, oh come on Bojack, like, but yeah, that was basically like just. That set for that episode, but it was just, but again, like that. This is one of the stronger ones of the season.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the stronger ones. Also, the BuzzFeed dude, he is just an asshole.
Dude, he's
that
creepy.
Is just it. Yeah, he's creepy. He's weird.
Because he's like, you shouldn't be with him. You should be with me.
Yeah, and he did nothing. He didn't write anything down. Nope. He wasn't even really doing the article. And then he said, "Oh, I could just make a thing about the article really quick. It's just about his washed up show."
Yeah,
like that's like awful.
Yeah, that's messed up.
But I would say that's a very good conclusion. Like I said, that end point of watching him go back to Beast Buy and return the game, like that's like just awful. He planted it in there, and then it just rips your guts out whenever you see it.
Yeah.
But that brings us to episode 5, which means we're halfway through the season, almost halfway through the season. Next episode will be half. Live Fast, Diane Nguyen. A business trip for Bojack and Diane take a detour when Todd runs a scam and gets him in trouble. So Todd has a lot of these little Todd adventures.
Yeah, those are fun.
They're awesome. I mean, I love Todd. Mm-hmm. But going through here, Bojack has at the beginning of the episode, he pulls a gun out at TSA.
He's like, you can't bring this on the plane. He's like, it's like a drink. And he's like, okay, what about this gun? They're like, what?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, no, don't worry, it's a lighter, and it's an actual gun. He
meets up with the book publishing thing, and they're
yeah,
about to
Mr.
do something.
Penguin.
And then Diane says, "My dad just passed away."
Yeah, she gets a call and she's like, "Oh, my dad just died, but it's okay. Let's just continue about this." And it's so nonchalant, and he's like, "Whoa, are you okay?" Like, and she's like, "I'm fine. Let's continue talking." So, do we want this date out this day or what?
Yeah.
It's a really crazy thing. But Todd reads a note from Bojack, and I love that it's in Bojack's voice. He's like, "Duh, that's how voices in your head work."
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're reading, because that's how reading works. He goes out to his house and he's trying to trampoline from the roof, right?
Yeah, he basically tries to do something, and then these show tours come up, and they're like, "This is David Boreanaz's hat," and he's like, "Nope, it's not." And then they go, "Dang, I would have made sold money to like," and so
I would have seen David Boreanaz for $50,
and he was like, "Maybe I can make money off of this because Bojack's not gonna get him in trouble or anything, or like get on to him. Let's do this." So him and Princess Carolyn put together like a scam tour around Bojack's house, but it being David Boreanaz.
Yeah, and they just replace all the photos with really bad pictures
has like
of
the
him.
picture, and she's like, "This David Boreanaz picture fell off." It's like, I can fix it. It's just a picture of Bojack.
Yeah, and he just puts it back on there and goes, "There you go, good as new."
Yeah, it's so
like
funny.
It's very fun. But Diane starts trying to dig deeper with Bojack about how his father was and his mom was, and he is very apprehensive. He's not willing to tell them. And she goes into her house and she's like, "All right, you stay here."
These guys are so funny. Her brothers are like, they're Boston. Like, if you think of like Boston and you've never been to Boston, this is what you'd probably get. You'd be like, "Hey, yo, Diane.
Hey, yo, big, mighty Diane. He had never got time for a family.
Yo, Dee, come over here and do this thing.
Hey, Dee, do this." But there are 4 brothers. One of them is adopted.
Yeah, he's a goat.
And he's, is he a goat or a ram? Yeah, I think he's a ram.
Yeah, ram.
But the other 3 are her biological brothers.
I like, there's a saying where they go, they're like, "Oh," it's like, she's like, "Why don't you get off the couch?" She goes, "All of our work's been taken from immigrants." She goes, "We're Vietnamese. Hey, take that out of your mouth. Whereas most American as they come."
Yeah. They're what, 2nd generation Vietnamese?
I think so.
And also she like her dad was he was a Vietnamese history teacher.
He was a history teacher, but the thing with her family is that her family is just kind of rough, where they all are both dependent on her, but don't show her enough respect. Same thing with her dad, that he didn't like, she didn't really like him. She didn't spend any time with him as much.
Oh, also at this point, Bojack is incapacitated in the car with a kaleidoscope, right?
Yeah, because
there's so many beautiful colors that I've never seen, and he.
Yeah, and they just go through, and then Bojack shows up to the house, and everyone's like, "Hey, oh, it's the guy from Horsing Around.
I love that show, Horsing Around."
And he feels like
a weird brother complex.
Yeah, because he's never had any siblings in his family.
He's like, "What do you mean? These guys are great, Diane."
And he likes to kind of like, but he doesn't. The thing I like about this with Bojack is that he doesn't really like belittle Diane much. Like, I mean, he does little jokes.
He respects her a lot.
He respects her enough where even when she was like, "Can you come with me to the funeral?" he goes with her. He just leaves.
Yeah.
And so they go to the funeral, and the dad's body isn't even there.
Yeah, so the dad's body, they got it chopped up and made into chum.
Yeah, and to throw at Derek Cheater.
Yeah, to throw at Derek Cheater, which it does end up on him, correct?
No, so
it ended up on the old lady. And he stole purse from her.
At the end, Derek Cheater walks this old lady across the thing, and the can doesn't land on her. It just knocks her out, and he just steals her purse.
That's so funny. But one big thing in this is her brothers catfished her.
Yep.
With a pen pal. And they had a homeless dude show up for prom for her, and it like super embarrassed her. It was awful.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, we
just make her like feel like this character, because at the end she does say that like she knows it's a bad situation and she like doesn't like being back, but Bojack says, "Well, screw it. That's the cool thing about like life, is that you can kind of just like run away from it." And this is both good advice and bad advice. For her, it's good advice, but for
him, it's awful.
For anyone else, it's basically like run away from your problems and don't look back and neglect life. It's like he basically told her everything she probably needed to hear in the moment, but not good advice for anyone else in life. Like, unless you're like going through like a really terrible time, something where it's like just abandoning everything is bad. Yeah,
and Bojack shows up to the place with a paper that has a note quote unquote,
Yeah.
from her old pen pal Leo, which is the guy. Obviously, BoJack wrote it to make her feel better.
Yeah. It's the homeless guy.
Yeah, it's Dear Diane, it's me, your old pen pal Leo. This definitely isn't BoJack Horseman writing this.
Yeah.
So I'm just reading the subtitles.
Yep.
You are a good person, Diane. And that's the most important thing. Even if no one appreciates you, it's important that you don't stop being good. I like how you always bring your own bags to the grocery store, and how you're always organized to go to places. I like how you chew gum on the airplane when your ears will pop. A lot of people might not appreciate that about you, but I do. And yours forever, Leo. That's the best letter he ever wrote me. That's what she says about it.
Yeah, and so BoJack. That's the thing. It's like we just saw an episode ago that BoJack was setting up a big thing so Todd wouldn't leave. He basically betrays Todd for his own interest, and then this one he defends Diane. And so you can see, like, if you were just, like, watching the show out of context and you just watch an episode, you're like, what the heck is this person? But when you're starting to binge the show and watch, you understand the tragedy of this character. You understand that he is a flawed person, but he has a good heart.
He wants to do good, and he really, really tries. And then also at some points, he's just so self-destructive.
Yeah. And
this is just one of those things where it's just another day that ends in Y for BoJack.
Yeah, it's just another day for him.
Our A story is a D story.
Our A story is a D story.
Yeah.
Episode 6. So basically,
this one is just a dick measuring contest between BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter.
This is probably the weakest episode of the season, where it is what you said. It's a measuring contest. It's basically Mr. Peanut Butter and BoJack comparing each other to one another, and in this, Ty is in jail from the thing from last episode where he like scammed people, and the cops got him, and then he's in jail now. And then on BoJack's side, it's he kind of has feelings for Diane now, and he he tries to like do everything he can to kind of like show off in front of Mr. Peanut Butter and stuff and be better, which he's always kind of wanted to do with Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah.
And he drunkenly steals the D in the Hollywood sign.
Yeah, so then we ended up being in Hollywood.
And they bring it up sometimes too later in other seasons. It's called Hollywood now.
This episode is fun. It's not a bad episode or anything.
No, like I said.
But like the synopsis is they get drunk after trying to measure up. Oh, I'm sorry. There is a second storyline in this. I forgot.
It was Todd, yeah.
Yeah, Todd's story.
But they get drunk trying to like this like be like who's the best one, and then they steal the sign, and then BoJack
tells Mr. Peanut Butter.
But he also there's like two meanings to him wanting to get rid of the sign. One, for publicity, he doesn't like want to ruin his career. But two, if Diane finds out that he stole the D for her, it would mean
he would know that he likes her.
He likes her, and he doesn't want
and
that.
Mr. Peanut Butter knows that he likes her because
kind of.
No, he knows that you have feelings for my girl. Is what he says. He says you have feelings for my girlfriend, because he left him a voicemail, and he left apparently Diane a voicemail.
And he goes like, now do I enjoy her time? Yes, but do I like her? No.
No, he's like, what is it? It's does she make me feel better every time that I'm with her? Of course.
Am I attracted to her physically? Yes.
Yes, of course, indubitably. Do I fantasize about her? Only in two positions.
And then you're like, and he's like, but do I like her? No.
Yeah, that's all it is.
So he plays it off, and Mr. Peanut Butter's like, fine, I'll help you if you stop trying to pursue Diane.
And he goes, no, he's like, if you stop talking to Diane, he's like, I'm not gonna do that.
Outside of the book.
Yeah, and he's like, as long as you stop pursuing her. In a romantic way.
And he's like,
okay.
Yeah, and so they work together. BoJack definitely throws money out to people that are like $1, and they're like, these are just singles, and it's like, and then is it Beyonce or Mariah Carey?
It was Beyonce. I think that flips right and falls.
Beyonce falls because they do a gig. They do a bit where it's like, all the single dollars, because it's to her song.
Oh yeah, all the single dollars, all the single dollars.
And so Mr. Peanut Butter steals the D, and BoJack thinks he's safe until Mr. Peanut Butter like shows her and changes it to be a big gift. So he basically swooped it under,
and it was called the most romantic gesture in all of history.
Yes.
And it was one of these things where he had a complex about it.
Yeah.
Because technically speaking, Bojack did that.
Yes.
But also Diane didn't like it because
it's a big thing.
She hates huge gestures.
And then he proposes to her.
And they get engaged.
And he's like, this is gonna be just us. And she says yes. And then it turns out to be a bigger spectacle than what it was on a show.
Yeah.
And it kind of bothers her a little bit, but she obviously loves Mr. Peanut Butter, so she's in it.
She's like, I want to make this work.
And
also, Todd goes to jail.
Todd goes to jail, and he has to pick between two gangs. Like
the
whites or the Latins.
Yeah, the whites are the Latins, and I'm not gonna say their actual gang names.
Yeah, and it's just a Belle of the Ball type story. It's fun. It's a little goofy, but
he has to like swap out bandanas and like talk to them about like whatever.
And then he's about to like get killed.
He's about to get curb stomped, and then a helicopter
saves him.
It's pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's funny because in between he keeps calling Bojack. And he's like, "Listen, man, the bail's only $50.
$50," and he's like, "I can't do that right now, Todd."
Hangs up on him.
Call someone else, Todd. Like it's really funny.
It is.
Say Anything is episode 7.
So this one, you can say the synopsis.
Okay. Bojack sabotages himself with an epic bender. Princess Carolyn's agent merges
with another.
Oh yeah, so her agency, which she works for.
I can't remember.
I won't remember off the top of my head. Her agency merges with another, which happens a lot actually.
Yeah, but they mentioned it before that there's this one agent that she hates and despises because she's a little bit better at her job, or she's very competitive at her job.
It's Gecko,
Vanessa
right?
Gecko.
Vanessa Gecko,
but she's actually a human.
She's actually a human, which is one of the funniest like
you think
random.
It's gonna be like a gecko.
Yeah, you'd figure like, oh, that's an easy name.
And she already does all this stuff where Tabby Wood, that's what it's called.
No, that's her apartment.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Tabby Wood's her apartment.
Yeah, I don't think I could tell you what the agency is, but yeah. So basically, honestly, that is the main story. There isn't really a big B plot in this one because, like, only thing Todd really does is he's in a bourbon commercial. But this is honestly a Princess Carolyn episode where
this is also Sarah Lynn's episode. Well, this is Sarah Lynn and Bojack episode, isn't it?
No.
Oh no, you're right. The next one is.
No.
Is it not the next one?
That's the next season. The only Sarah Lynn episode was number 3 with the prickly muffin.
Oh,
this one is just Bojack. This is honestly like this. When I said other characters get time, this is a Princess Carolyn episode.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it totally is a Princess
She competes
Carolyn
with Vanessa Gecko to keep her spot in the place, and then Bojack is clingy because obviously Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter just got engaged, and he is like keeps going back to Princess.
He's got like weird mood swings.
Yeah, he has these big mood swings that also kind of put her in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so she tells him off and says go away, and she has to have Todd stand in for Bojack in a commercial, and
Todd gets drunk off of the bourbon that Bojack swapped out with.
Oh yeah, and it becomes a real
diva
on set. But Princess Carolyn is so good at her job that she's able to like turn the tables on Vanessa and get Bojack back and still make the movie that she wanted to do,
and an extra movie in the process,
and everything.
But also, this is one of those episodes where she realizes, like,
that Bojack's not the guy.
Yeah, this is my life, and then it cuts to black. It's like actually crazy.
Yeah,
she sees the bourbon commercial thing, and she's like, okay. And then it's her birthday, which is crazy because she's 40, correct?
Yep.
And that's like it's a huge age to make on this, because like being 40 is fine, but being 40 is almost midlife.
For some people.
Most people are that is
beyond midlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to die at 40, that's like you're about to die.
Yeah, and so for them it's it. And then in the end she calls Bojack and she's like, I got you a role, and he goes, I don't care. And it leads into this next episode,
which is the episode where he goes and meets
his friend
with Herb Kazaz. The episode's called The Telescope.
Mm-hmm.
When he learns that his old friend from Horsing Around is dying, Bojack tries to mend fences.
Yeah, and they do talk about it like a little bit in episode 3 with Sarah Lynn, because she does say that Herb's got cancer.
This is the Herb and Bojack episode.
Yes.
This is what defined their relationship.
There actually is no side plot. This is the first.
There's a side plot. It's Todd and the 2 chicks who are robbing the place.
Oh yeah, there is.
It's not really a side plot though. There's like a couple scenes.
There's like 2 or 3 scenes, where he's trying to back out of the parking lot and he gets caught. But
we open the episode on I don't want to do this. I just found out that Herb has cancer, and he hangs up.
Yeah.
We get to see a
Flashback.
Flashback where Herb was up doing stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He talks to what is
Charlotte.
her name? Charlotte, and she's like, me and Herb are about to break up. Like, I'm moving to Maine. Do you think that if we had met at a different time, you would have put a move on me? And Bojack's like, whoa, like I don't know. And she's like, I don't think you would have.
Because the thing with these characters are that Bojack and Charlotte and Herb they're like a trio of friends.
Yeah.
But it's
Herb and Charlotte are together, and Herb is actually gay.
That does happen. That is one of the things that sways him for the episode. But yeah, Charlotte definitely might have some feelings for Bojack, but obviously he's at like the upcoming of his career, and it's because of Herb too. Herb had a little bit more success than Bojack, and they're best friends, like outside the job and stuff.
I love that, like their bit of like, so what's the deal with why are you asking me what the deal is? Tell me what the deal is.
Yeah,
like they like cutting down and understanding what comedy is. It's an art form to them, and they enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, and so but Herb goes up to Bojack and says, "Hey, I got this idea for a show called Horsing Around, and I told them, like, Bojack, you're coming with me, and like there's no debate." And he loved it, and he showed him this telescope, and he said, one day when we're a big success, we're gonna look out on the city again and high five.
He's like, I don't know about this high five situation.
What
I'm
about
more of a
the
low
low
five.
and then the show goes on, and this is where we see, like we said, that it was his family and a little bit of her, but mainly the show is what kind of turned Bojack.
What's do you remember this chick's name?
I don't remember her name in this show.
I think it's Charlotte, right?
No, Charlotte's the girl. He's the deer lady.
Oh, you're right.
But in this one, she is like this. Like she's the only kind of voice of reason that he will sort of listen to.
Yeah, she's in a lot of these episodes in the background.
Yeah, and she's important. Like Sharon.
Oh, Sharona.
Sharona.
Okay, yeah. So Sharona is his makeup artist and like the person he talks to besides Herb at the show.
Yep.
It's a big thing.
And so he basically puts on a bit of a bit, but he puts up with Herb because Herb is his best friend, and even though he's getting a little bit more showbiz and he's kind of being a bit of a diva himself, he still thinks of his old friend. But then Herb gets
outed as
being gay and going through these things, and
which at the time
in the 90s
is when you would be prosecuted for doing that. This would be something that could get you kicked off of a show,
and that's what they're doing. And Herb's big thing was, listen, Bojack, I know I messed up, but if you say you'll walk, they'll probably keep me on the show. But then this big exec lady who's like super professional, she goes in all calm.
This is the time where, because like Herb went to bat for Bojack to get him on the show.
Yep.
And this is the time that Herb needed Bojack
basically to return the favor.
And
Bojack was like, but the thing about this was Bojack was going to at first, but then he was just getting shut down by like the media and the business, and them saying like, listen, do you really want to get thrown out for a guy like Herb, or do you want to maybe play secretariat in the future and continue your career?
Yeah.
And so he doesn't help Herb. Herb gets thrown out of the industry, and basically he's been living his whole life with resentment towards Bojack, and Bojack doesn't even like say sorry or try to make amends with him any of these years.
He just rationalizes it. He's like, there's so many people watched it, and I didn't want to ruin the show for anyone. And he pushes blame away from himself.
He pushes it more on Herb, and it wasn't, technically Bojack's fault, but in that moment to his friend, he betrayed him. And so later, when the scene about him actually seeing Herb with cancer, Herb's good fun. He cracks some jokes. He's a comedian, but he does obviously still have like secret like thoughts about it. But in the end, he meets with Diane and Bojack. He talks with them, and before Bojack leaves, he goes, I still feel like I need to say sorry. And he says sorry to him. He says, Herb, I'm sorry. And he goes, okay, I don't forgive you.
Yeah. And he's like, Herb, I don't think you understand. This is the last time I'm going to get to see you. And he was like,
cool. I'd rather die.
I still do not forgive you.
Yeah, I'll hold this grudge when I die, and I'm going to like basically haunt you with guilt.
You don't get
to have
your happy ending in this. Yeah.
And then Bojack is like, fine. And instead of being reasonable about it, he storms off, gets in a little fight with Herb, and even like tries to take the telescope. Yeah, beats up a guy with cancer, and then just leaves. And so he never makes amends with it.
He never makes amends with Herb. He doesn't get any closure with this relationship.
Nope.
And Herb passes away
Later seasons. Yep.
later season.
I think maybe
Yeah.
season 2 or 3.
But they never talk again.
Nope. This is his last interaction with his supposed best friend, at least back then, and it's just over like that. He leaves his best friend knowing that he hated him.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where literally the last words he said is that you don't get closure from this.
Yep.
And it's the first time that it feels really real, I think. He's not. We shouldn't root for Bojack.
We shouldn't root for Bojack, but there's some.
But you still want to.
You still want to because one, he's the main character, and two, there's like just enough bits of like he's trying to be good, but it's just so hard.
But
and then
then at the very end of the episode,
Diane tries to cheers him up, and he tries to kiss her. I think he maybe does kiss her, and
he does, yeah.
She thinks it's just so awkward, and she gets back in the car and waits for him to just drive back.
Yeah, it was very weird and awkward, and he kisses her because he does like her.
Like he does like her, and obviously with this whole rush of emotions going on, he needs some sort of win, which doesn't work
which
out.
he doesn't get, yeah.
No.
And by this time, by the way, she is engaged to Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yep. The next episode is Horse Manure,
mm-hmm.
where a look-struck Bojack tries to sabotage a wedding. Todd accepts a surprising professional role, where in this thing, basically, it starts off with the car ride we just saw, where Bojack tried to kiss Diane, and it's awkward. And when they get back, which like an episode or two before, they were like buddy,
yeah. Buddy cops, like they were the good cop and the bad cop.
Yeah, where they made Mr. Peanut Butter feel a little jealous of Bojack, and this one, it just is so awkward between them.
Yeah, I mean they start off and he kisses her, and she's like, "We're friends, right?"
Yeah,
like, it's just weird.
Yeah, it's just weird. And when they get back, basically Bojack, instead of taking this and being like, "This is awkward, I should apologize," or I should maybe try to like make it less awkward, he makes it more awkward by enlisting Todd's help and trying to break up Mr. Peanut Butter, where he's like, "Well, we kissed, and I like her, and maybe she likes me. I should be together. We should be together." So he gets Todd to help break up with Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah, trying to make the engagement go awry.
Yeah, and because he does something, and then Todd ends up getting a job for Mr. Peanut Butter as his driver.
And he's like, "We got to stop the wedding."
Yes, and in that we do have some moments where Mr. Peanut Butter is a bit like close and serious, because in a moment with Todd, he says like, "Hey man, I'm not sure about this, like the serious." Like he's like, "I don't know if I want to marry Diane, but I like her." And then this all kind of gets like, the big thing about this is there's not enough communication with all the characters where it could have been resolved. And even in this episode, Bojack enlists Margot Martindale again to stage a robbery, but then they just say, "You know what? We don't need a big like stinking wedding. Let's go get married."
Now,
and they get married like the next couple of days. And then when Todd figures it all out, he actually remembers what happened and is like, "Wait a minute. This is the actress who set me up." And in this episode, he figures out that Bojack ruined his rock opera and betrayed him, and so he has a little bit of resentment towards Bojack, and so then he starts to kind of lean towards hanging out more with Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yeah, also, and Margot Martindale ends up going to jail because she literally held up a bank.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that's pretty much the episode. We have some revelations.
We also have a little thing. It's kind of on the sides for other episodes where Princess Carolyn meets up with this like little like three. It's just the joke is it's a kid. Who's
it's
really
three
tall,
kids in a
trench coat, but no one else knows besides Bojack. And he's just
what's his name? Billy?
I think it's Billy. And she's just like, he's like, "Guys, you see that thing over there, right?" They're like, "You're just jealous of him. You need to just be happy for us."
No, he is clearly three young boys
doing the thing from the Little Rascals. It's like, why would you be happy?
I will say I have seen a theory that the kid and the adult are two separate people because they have a different amount of freckles whenever they are one or the other.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a very big chance that he is just an adult man who is really weird. Like, I think that's the way that they went with it because there's no way that they would accidentally give him too many freckles.
That'd be funny.
He has one less freckle when he is an adult, and when he is a little boy, he has one more freckle.
That's actually super funny of a theory. I guess we have to see where that plays out in later seasons.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. It's so funny.
The next episode is called One Trick Pony.
Oh, whoops.
So basically, before it was kind of like the job that Bojack was getting is he's actually playing. He's shooting a movie at Miss Peanut Butter's house, and Diane finishes her book. And the movie is obviously the actual reenactment of what happened in a couple.
Yeah, with the big D.
With the big D from the Hollywood sign. So Bojack is playing Mr. Peanut Butter, and obviously that's probably like the worst thing he wanted because he doesn't really like Mr. Peanut Butter at all.
And then the co-host, she's so
in trying to be like method acting.
She's method acting, so she starts a relationship with
Bojack. But like as Diane, and it's just so funny because Bojack is kind of clueless to all this, but because he thinks that he's just like, well,
he just thought somebody likes him.
Someone likes him, and then he realizes, nope, I'm just liking Diane in any like image there is.
Yeah.
But like I think this is another like sort of weak episode, but it's fine. It's just fun. We also get a little nod at like just these fun little gags of Quentin Tarantulino.
I love Quentin Tarantulino
because he's just Quentin Tarantino, but as a tarantula.
Also, what's the dude? What's his name?
I don't know his name.
It's the dude who plays this is Gilbert Gottfried, right?
That's not Gilbert Gottfried. But
no, it's the guy who's inconceivable from the Princess Bride. But he's Bojack.
He's playing Bojack
It's
Horseman.
just really funny.
Yeah, because they're like, well, he's playing me. It's like this guy. It's like that guy. It's just funny. And then Todd somehow gets on set. He was working for Mr. Peanut Butter, but Todd talks to the director, and in the end of the whole like thing, they shoot the movie. But then they're like, you know what? We changed the idea so much where instead of a movie, it's a gift basket service where people can eat lunch.
Yeah, Todd makes the movie insane, and then they make it into not a movie.
Yeah, and then Bojack gets out of his relationship with his co-host because obviously it was just her method acting Diane, and Diane kind of shares with Bojack a little bit that she finished the book finally, and when Bojack reads it,
he doesn't like it,
not to his liking, and he fires her.
Yeah, and it's because it was a good book. It's
It's just something personal that he.
Yeah, it's a real personal book.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to get out, but it's just this episode was good. Like we said, like probably a little like weaker because it just like it's a smaller subject, but I still think it's like it does enough to like what it needs to do with like the themes.
But this episode I think is it's probably the third weakest, if not the second weakest.
Yeah, I mean there's only 12 episodes in the show, and so like some can be like maybe tied at a spot, but
the finales of seasons are gonna be the best episode. I mean they're all good.
I think personally the next episode, second to last,
Downer Ending,
is what I think the best episode of the season.
Yeah, so this episode is called Downer Ending. Bojack embarks on a project in his typical gonzo style, leading to a drug-fueled revelation.
Yeah, so the basis of this one is, and this one has like a little bit of a side plot, but the main plot is that Diane finished her book, showed it to Bojack, and Bojack was not happy with it. And Bojack, being Bojack, was like, I can write a better book. So he goes to try to write it, and he keeps getting distracted and procrastinates. And then he's like, well, I have a deadline, so let me soup up on a bunch of drugs. So him, Todd, and Sarah Lynn all take drugs, and they try to write
from
the
Doctor
book.
Who.
From Doctor Who, which was like this just like random like drug
doctor that they met at a Halloween party.
Yep.
And they keep phasing in and out of reality where like they have guns and then they don't have guns and then they try to shoot each other but they're brooms.
It's just, this is so bonkers. It's a big acid trip for everybody, but it's crazy, and there's just like so much going on for Bojack.
And then we don't know the time frame here really, but it says 2 days later, and then Diane comes in and gives him a kiss, and then she turns into like a crazy monster because he's like on acid.
Yeah, basically everything is just so messed up for him, and he's still on this trip, and he gets both like values and stuff about his life. So he gets like his parents, Diane, like basically all the themes that we've been kind of seeing in season 1, where he's just not sure what he's doing, right? He's just like all the things that kind of like make him paranoid. And we even see stuff about like the show, and we also see like really cool like animation stuff happening. And this is probably the best animated thing of the season. But
yeah, I'd have to agree. I was thinking later was a different episode than what I'm thinking.
But
now.
It feels very good. And then we get to like a flashback, or not a flashback, like he's a dream sequence of him horsing around, and he's still stressed out about everything, and all these like anxieties hit him, and it's just along with this bad trip, he's just feeling awful.
And it's just letting him reflect on everyone he knows.
Yeah.
And, it's just one of those things. He talks to Sarah Lynn. He talks to Herb. He talks to Charlotte. Talks to Todd. He talks to everyone.
I do say with the Charlotte bit, because that is kind of like the end, and it kind of represents, like, the coming down from the high. The Charlotte part is him, what she was saying to him earlier, could we have had a different life? And he has his life with her where he's just living happily in a house with Charlotte, with a kid, and he's being like a role model dad, and he's very happy about it, but he's stuck. He doesn't know what he wants, and he finally comes off of the trip, and he wakes up, and it's 5 days have passed. Him time to write his own book failed, and Princess Caroline says, like, what are you doing? He goes, all right, I finally give up. I just want the approval of the person I like. And so he goes to Diane at this book.
Do you think I can still be good?
Be a good person.
Yeah.
And I don't think they answer. I think it's a rhetorical question. And
she doesn't answer. Yeah. I will say, we do find out about the Lollipop song in this episode. And I'm going to say right now, remember the Lollipop episode. And then when you go through and watch these, remember the Lollipop song. That is something that will come up way later, but I will make it full circle. But yeah, so he gets in a house with Charlotte.
Yeah,
and they just live. He just lives a full life with her, and he sees what it could have been,
and it didn't work out.
Yeah, and this is totally made up by him.
Yeah, this is all just still on the trip, but it's just everything because first it shows what he's afraid of and what he has, and then it shows him what he wants and what he could have, but obviously he can't. So.
It's one of those things where he makes up this crazy fantasy where he has a daughter named Harper, and this is a thing where he goes out through her entire life and he realizes how happy he could have been if he'd went this route. And it's not real. It's just a made up thing. He has this weird attraction to Charlotte. He thinks that she is in Maine somewhere next to a lake, and he wishes that he could have a life with somebody like this.
Yeah.
And then he comes off of the trip in a parking lot in the rain.
Yeah, it's really probably one of the worst hangovers he's ever had.
Yeah. He gets a call from Princess Carolyn, and she likes the book. Or she doesn't like the book he made, but she's like, the book that you had was brilliant. We should just go with that one.
Yeah.
This is a random fucking... we don't know what this book is. What did you make?
Yeah, and so he basically gives up on it, and he goes
gives
to
up on
see
Diane, and they're at a panel, and this is the last part of the episode where he just wants to know if he could change and be a better person, and Diane does not answer him, I don't believe.
No, I think it's just like one of those like last like moment things.
Yeah, am I good, Diane? Please tell me, Diane. Tell me that I am good.
Honestly, this would have been a great end to season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I like the next episode too, and it has important stuff. I just feel like if this was the cliffhanger for the first season, that would have been...
Yeah, and it's an awesome episode. It's a very powerful episode. And I think it's very important to understand what this episode means to him, because the drug trip was a stage for his entire life. And we get to see these ideas that inside of his brain, things are always around TV and like the film and the theater, and like this is what his brain works off of.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times whenever he's in his brain and we're seeing this, it's in like a studio or something like that, where it's like it's my house but all the lights are up and it's like actually lit.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of like, it feels kind of like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Like whenever he would go into his brain, like he watched the Truman Show and was like, that is my life.
The last episode is called Later. Essentially, it's just like months after his memoir is released, Bojack's being considered for a role that's a lifelong dream, which is the Secretariat movie. And we see other characters doing good, like Diane and them.
Yes. And this is the first time we see Secretariat.
It is. So the first scene is Secretariat in an interview in 73. And he gets a note from Bojack. And Bojack's like, hey, I'm sad. And when I get sad, what should I do? And Secretariat, honestly,
you should keep running.
Secretariat feels like Bojack a little bit, where he has these like mental issues where he's like, hey, run away from your issues and don't let them creep.
Don't
up
let
to you.
anybody stop you from trying to be happy
Yep.
and running. And obviously, running is here for a metaphor for doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But the word running is a negative connotation when it comes to this. And it's a very interesting thing. But apparently, Secretariat was betting on his own races and taking illegal substances.
Yeah, and so
He got found out for it, so he jumped off of the Louisiana Bridge.
Yeah,
Not Louisiana Bridge. It's a Louisville Bridge, right?
it's
Louisville, I think.
He basically is just he's basically at the lowest point of his life, and so he goes to this bridge and he ends his life. Not Bojack, but Secretariat, and this for Bojack, this must have been a tough time for him too, hearing that his hero died.
Yeah.
Died in such a low way. So that's another valuable point of like
It was
Louisville.
Louisville, yeah.
But that's just another thing that
Louisville.
mess with Bojack too. But
Yeah.
we cut to the present. It's a couple months later after Bojack.
His book gets
Success.
Yeah, it gets a Golden Globe.
Is that what Golden Globes are for?
No, Golden Globes are for movies.
So
They also got the one for I think a comedy movie.
yeah, it's weird.
And he's like, I don't think you guys know
what
do you guys,
my book is.
Yeah, it's a book. It's not a movie.
Yeah, it's so weird, but I mean, that's kind of the comedy of the show. But I like that everyone's doing good. Him, Princess Carolyn, like everyone literally is at a high point in their life right now where there's so many opportunities for them. Like Bojack is here, just like living life, and also he's getting opportunities for more acting roles.
Yeah,
and then stuff like what's her name, Diane. Gets the opportunity she gets a call from one of her old friends who's like a journalist and refugee like helper, and he said, listen,
I want you here to write a book about
Yes.
these starving children in is it
Sudan.
New Guinea?
Somewhere in New Guinea. He said Sudan or in the Sudan, so
They said a lot of places.
I
He's
think-
like everywhere.
yeah, it just he wants
Sebastian St.
he wants him
Clair.
to come across continent and do this for a couple of like probably months
Yeah.
of her life, and it's a big decision, but this could be a good thing for her. But is she really willing to leave her friends and her career and her life here, and even her husband?
Yeah, well, her fiance at this point.
No,
No,
they're
there are. Yeah, you're right. Husband, yeah.
but
I forget they do have literally one episode they get married.
yeah, it's just a short thing. But and so in this, Mr. Peanut Butter. There's also another side story about Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd making a Halloween store in January. That's really nothing.
It's not a lot that's going to be contributing to the story
Yeah.
here, but it is fun. I mean, it's obviously
But it's just the big two stories are Diane and Bojack, and that is kind of also like the main two of the show, where Bojack
Yeah.
wants to play Secretariat, and he tries out for it, and they do like. They listen to him, and he says, Secretariat is like my hero, and I wanted to play him, and I know I am older, but I can still play the role.
And I love this director that we get introduced to. I'm trying to make sure I got her name
J.K.
correctly.
Simmons is this turtle guy.
No.
Kelsey.
Kelsey Janning.
Yeah.
She is a small indie director. And also, I just realized on this freeze frame we have the good, the bad, and the bugly.
On the
That's
poster,
really
yeah.
funny. It's a mosquito. So we have Kelsey. She's very important.
Yeah.
She's one of the only, like, Bojack goes back and like tries to work with her a bunch.
Yeah.
She is somebody who doesn't give him validation. She's someone who doesn't give him all the things he wants, but she pushes him to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And he auditions for Secretariat, and they really like his
They
performance.
do, but then they get a call, and they're like,
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield's
Garfield.
in it. And actually, Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter come in clutch
actually-
because Andrew Garfield goes into the store and falls down a hole.
And breaks his bones.
And he breaks all of his bones in his body.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, you know what, Bojack? We'll give you this role.
Yeah, which he is ecstatic for. He feels better about it.
Yeah.
But he's been in this weird stupor the entire time. And Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd go on another business venture, not even finishing their last one.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but we sit here at the end, and he gets cast for Secretariat.
Yeah.
And this is the point where Bojack should be happy,
Yes.
and he is not.
Because he just doesn't know it.
He thought this is what he wanted. This is what he thought would make him feel better, and now that it doesn't, he doesn't know what to do. So who does he talk to?
Diane.
Diane, of course. this shows a real level to this character.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I mean, we've all of us have gone through something rough. Some of us are going through it currently. Some of us are not. But this is the moment where everyone can connect with him, and they say that you've reached your goal, and it's not satisfactory. And he is scared that if he works on this project, it is not going to be what he wants. So he gets kind of freaked out. But after talking to Diane, they kind of work things out, I think, fully. I think he feels better about it. If you think so, too.
Yeah, I think that is true. I was just, I was, like, looking at it, and the thing is that they really do, like, have this nice little ending where it's, like, she is this person who can
Herb is, like, still talking to his the nurse, and they're having a good time. Margot's in jail, and she's having a good time. She has a lot of sisters in jail.
Taking care of Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, Sarah Lynn, who's dating Andrew Garfield's doing that.
Princess Caroline, and I think she said Billy.
I think Billy's his name. Or Tommy. Tommy's his name.
They make up, and they get back together.
And they actually move in together, I think, or they're going on a trip.
Yeah.
We get some old episodes of horsing around, which is this is where Bojack is at his lowest, and he is watching horsing around to feel better.
Yep.
And he goes to the place where Herb said we were going to high five,
and he goes there,
look at
and
the telescope.
And this little horse kid says, "Hey man, you're kind of like my hero," and he comes full circle for him.
Yeah, and Bojack is like, "Oh," like he's taken aback by it.
Yep.
And he sits and puts his arms on the banister, and he sits and looks out, and lets it just sit in, and it's not a happy ending,
but it's not.
But it's not sad either.
It's the ending fit for BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
In season 1.
And that is actually the last episode of season 1.
Yeah.
That's our wrap up. So what are your general thoughts on the first season?
I've seen up to season 3. I'm obviously going back and watching season 2 this week, so we're doing the thing for it.
Yeah.
But season 1, I thought was, since I've already seen it before, it's not like as shocking to me as the first time seeing it, but even rewatching it, I just realized how good this show is at tackling. For me, regardless of the characters, BoJack Horseman, the show, and the main character are great representations of like just real themes that people sometimes don't get to talk about. It's really like it's hard.
The show, the way I've heard it be described, because I've done a deep dive on this show. I mean, I've done 2 monologues from it. I've practiced, and I've watched the show a bunch, and I've shared this show and had it shared with me by very, very important people in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's a somber show that gives people the articulation to express very hard feelings. And I've had some really, really good memories because of this show, watching it with people I really, really care about. And knowing that this show is such a deep and meaningful thing, to have shared that with somebody that you like, I've shared it with Brady, I've shared it with other people in my life. Knowing that I've given somebody that opportunity, or I've had the opportunity to watch it with somebody else, it's an incredible feeling to know that BoJack Horseman is an articulate show about real life, and you can really sink your teeth into these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love this show.
I wouldn't say I love it, but I don't want to take it away from you. I'm enjoying it so far. When I get
just say you love it. If you love it,
I don't love it.
You don't love the show.
Boom,
and you're dead. No,
I don't think I love any show per se. I like a lot of shows, but I don't.
You tell me you don't love Breaking Bad?
No.
What?
I don't even love Game of Thrones, and that was one of my favorite shows of the thing. I was pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Season 8 and 7, kind of botched it for me. But I haven't really gotten to a show yet that has really made me feel a whole bunch of ways, and that made me feel like, man, if I didn't have this show, I feel like, or no, if I want a show, or I would love, the only reason I would say to a show that I love a show is that if I was like, yo, this show helped me through a time. I've never had a show like that has helped me through a time. And maybe I'm just not going through the time. People are currently, like you said, are going through time, and they could really use this show. And also, I'm not all the way through yet. Like I said, I've only made it through season 3.
And I really needed this show when I watched it with Brady.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just something to where, like, he didn't even know. And he told me, he was like, I'm so happy you made me watch this. Like, I'm not going to take away from what he's going to say because I want him to talk about his experience. Because I had to convince him to watch it.
Yeah.
He did not want to watch it.
Because he probably saw it.
He thought it was going to be, like, a bummer and a half.
Yeah.
And this show is articulate and beautiful and well written.
It's not just, if this is like...
Watch it with somebody you care about.
Yeah, or even like if you want to watch it by yourself, just watch it. Like it's...
Yeah.
It's...
you're going to cry.
Don't judge this book.
A lot of people are going to cry.
Yeah, and don't judge this book by the cover. It might look like a dumb horse show, but it's deeper.
It's just a deep, dumb horse show. Duh.
It's a deep, dumb, sad horse show.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a whole bunch of fun.
Please go watch it.
Please go watch it. We had a good time on season 1. We're going to have a great time with season 2
through
6 and everything else. And we really hope you guys have a good time with both this episode and the ones we're talking about it.
Let us know if you like us doing seasons on things because, this is obviously a shake-up from the normal format, and this is the first long episode we've had in a little bit.
Yes. Also, tell us how we did on the episode. I think we did a good job. I feel like, if people want it more structured on how we go episode by episode, just let us know. But, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, we plan on doing the rest of the seasons plus one extra, so it'll be 7 episodes on BoJack.
Yep.
And there'll be probably either a keeping it short or a full episode over just the last episode.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Christmas special.
Oh, we can do the Christmas special, too. I don't care.
Well,
I like the Christmas special.
I think we should have, on the last episode, it needs to probably just be like... It could be...
It needs to be the finale.
It needs to be either a...
And I was thinking the finale really is the last 2 episodes. It's a 2-parter, I think.
Yeah. So I think, if anything, we just make the finale its own episode. Like, not a keeping it short, like its own podcast episode.
And we are also going to be doing one over Sweet Tooth soon, hopefully. If you have any shows to recommend...
Or even movie suggestions.
Or even movies. I wouldn't mind doing one over Breaking Bad, because I haven't watched all of Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm. That one, I feel like we'd have to get, at least for one season, during...
Of course. This would be something where we talk about... I would like to start doing shows, because we do movies a lot. But shows are another huge part of this art form. Mm-hmm. And if you want to see any type of show, just let us know. Maybe we do one over Tuca and Birdie. Let me look through just like what we've got on here. Like Tuca and Birdie would be cool. I want to do an episode over La La Land by itself.
Just the movie, yeah.
Yeah. The Midnight Gospel would be fun to do. We could do that over each episode because it's basically a podcast.
I've never seen that show. I want to do one. I know it's so dumb. This one we could do a keeping it short on. Mm-hmm. There's a show called Agent Elvis that just came out on Netflix.
Okay.
And I just think that's gonna be so fun. If we might not. I'm not gonna say like I haven't seen it yet, so maybe I just don't want to talk about it. But it looks cool. It looks stylish in the animation way it is. But like we said, just give us suggestions. Our current plan is just the BoJack stuff and maybe something about Sweet Tooth 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But just keep us posted on it. Let us know how you're liking the episodes, and we'll just see you next time.
Yeah, I was Christian.
I'm Cooper. This is the Real Deal Podcast.
See you later.
Later.